Hello everybody, welcome back to MC Panda to a beginner's tutorial on how to use structure blocks. This is a Minecraft Bedrock tutorial. Structure blocks do work differently in Java, but I go over the basic functionality of them and how you can use them as a creative building tool for your Minecraft world. I really hope you enjoy it. Let's get right into it. Structure blocks in Minecraft are an incredibly useful creative building tool that essentially allow you to save a structure and load it somewhere else. Or in other words, it allows you to copy and paste structures throughout your Minecraft world. So this can be useful, for example, if you build one floor of a skyscraper, you can copy and paste it the entire way up. Or if you want a row of houses, you only have to build one of them, and then you could use structure blocks to copy and paste it for the entire row. I personally use structure blocks all the time when building, especially when I need to build a large amount of the same thing, whether that be a floor of something or when I'm building an entire village, and they are very, very useful. So let's get into how to use them. So structure blocks are only available in creative mode, and you can only use them in creative. You cannot use them in survival. The way you want to get one of these is you want to use the command /give @self @s for @self structure block. There's also structure void, which we'll get to later in the video. I'm going to give myself one of both blocks for now. If you do use cheats in survival, you can technically get this block through commands. However, you won't be able to use it. You physically can't open its GUI in survival, and once you've placed it, it is unbreakable. It has the same blast resistance as Bedrock, so you won't be able to ever get rid of it. So just don't use these in survival. So we're going to use this very basic house as something that we're going to duplicate. So essentially, we're going to save this structure. So if you put the structure block down, you will see we have a lot of options here. So we're going to save for now. The structure name could be anything you want as long as you can remember it. I'm just going to name it house. And now what we want to do is these essentially determine what you're going to copy. So the offset will have y at 0. This essentially means this is what the structure block is going to copy and paste. So we need to make sure that it covers the entire area of the house. So we're going to count the blocks along that it goes. So this house goes 13 blocks along this direction, and you can see by the blue line that this is Z. So if we create 13, you'll notice it goes off in the other direction, which is where the offset comes in. If we put, I believe it's -13, then you can see that the Z-axis now covers the whole of the house. The whole of the front of the house, at least. And now we're going to do the same for the other two. So for X, if we count the number of blocks along the house goes, it goes 10 blocks along. So we're going to put that as the value. And if we offset this by 1, the offsets, by the way, you know whether to do a +1 or a -1 just by looking at the coordinates in the top left. Turn your coordinates on, then if the X is going up, the offset will be by 1, and if the coordinate is going down, it's going to be an offset by a negative amount. And then for Y, you do need to know how tall it is. So this one is, including the chimney, is 10 blocks tall. So we're going to this is the Y coordinate. X and Z are along and Y is up, in case you didn't know that already. So then these options include entities. This is if you spawn, say, a mob in this house, that option, you can choose to either include that mob in the structure or not. Remove blocks is essentially, it doesn't include any blocks inside the structure. So if there was any interior in here, which there isn't, it would get removed if you click that option. And now we can click the save button, and the structure has been saved. And now we're going to load it somewhere else. So if we set the mode to load rather than save, we will get a different interface. So what we're going to do here is this way you need to remember the name you saved it as. So I saved it as house. So I'll type in house into that name box, and you can see it's got the exact dimensions of it. However, it's not in exactly the right place. I want it to be directly behind this building. So you'll notice there isn't a size on this one because you're not saving anything. There is simply an offset. Now, annoyingly, it includes by default -1 on the Y offset. Almost all the time, I will change that to 0. And then the offset, to get it directly behind this other house, we're going to do you'll notice that this structure block is in the same place as it was when we were saving it, just it was on the same axis, which means we can essentially enter the exact same offset for Z, and we'll put it in the place that we want it. And then for X, this seems fine, so we're going to leave that as 0, and we're going to leave Y as 0. Now I notice a couple of these other options. Include entities and remove blocks, leave the same as you had them before. Integrity is essentially, this is if you want certain blocks to be removed. So in the case of a bastion or a shipwreck, you'd want some blocks removed. But we're going to leave that as 100 if we want all the blocks to stay the same. The seed, this is if you want the exact same blocks to be removed each time. So if you don't want any blocks removed, don't enter anything there. If you do want blocks removed, then set this integrity value to anything between 0 and 100. If you set it as 99, only a few blocks will be missing. If you set it to 1, most of the blocks will be missing. And you can enter a seed in here, just any number for it to make it the same each time. Rotation, if you want to rotate it, you can change it from, you can essentially rotate it, no rotation with 0 degrees, 90 degrees clockwise, 180 degrees clockwise, and 270 degrees clockwise. So you can see by the visual, and if we then go out of this, if we set it to 90 degrees, it'll paste it in this rotation. And then you can also mirror it on the X or the Z axis, which essentially means it'll draw a line down the middle of the structure and mirror it. Show bounding box, that is simply whether it's going to show this box or not. So we're going to load it, and you'll see it has put the exact same house down in a different place. And we're going to do it a couple of times just to showcase those other features. So if we set the integrity to, let's say, 50, and then load it, you'll notice that a lot of the blocks have been randomly removed from this. So we now have this mess of a house where half of the blocks have been removed. And this is useful for creating ruined structures. We can also rotate it, so if we want to rotate it 90 degrees, then we could do that. And you'll see that even though all the others have been facing in this direction, this one is facing in the other. And then if we rotate it to 90 degrees, we can mirror it. Now, X is represented by red. You can see by this red line, this is the X-axis. So say we want to mirror it on the X, then load it, you'll see it has put the door and the window on the opposite sides. So now we have this nice house. I accidentally put it one block too far this direction. But if you imagine these are on the same block, we have two nice houses next to each other, which is useful for creating villages. You do have to adjust the doors slightly because they get a bit messed up when you do this. But you can see that's how mirroring works. So that is how to save and load structures with structure blocks. And you have essentially endless creativity options with this. The Minecraft generated structures are an example. With shipwrecks, there is so much variety in them, so they are simply a bunch of shipwreck structures built with different wood types, different rooms inside, etc. And then they use integrity to remove random blocks to make them look ruined. Structure void is obtained in the same way as the structure block, using the slash give command. And these are used essentially if we take our original house. We're going to fill it with these structure void blocks. And essentially, these are blocks that when the structure is saved, these blocks will be completely ignored. So at the moment, that sounds a bit weird. At the moment, it's actually saving this thing as filled with air blocks, because air is counted as block in Minecraft. So that means if we want to paste this, say, underwater, it's going to be full of air blocks. However, this structure void block means that wherever there's a structure void, whatever block was there before will be maintained when you paste the structure. So it's a really weird red block. If you stop holding it, then it goes completely see-through and you can walk through it. And as I said, this block will be ignored when saving the structure block, so that, for example, what shipwrecks use, they use this to make sure that wherever there's a structure void, the block that was there before, in this case water, is maintained. But if it's on land, it's to make sure that if it does spawn on land, which they can do, they're not filled with water. And instead, they're filled with the air or the sand or the dirt that was there before. So if we fill this house entirely with structure void, we're going to save it. We're going to save it once again, instead as underwater house, and then we're going to paste this underwater so I can show you what this block can do. So we're going to save this as underwater house, and you've already seen me do this, so I'm going to cut ahead while I save this structure. So I've just saved the structure as underwater house, and now if we find some water, we're going to find an ocean. Now, the easiest way to find an ocean is there isn't a locate biome command. However, there is a command you can use to locate a shipwreck. And wherever there's a shipwreck, there's an ocean. So we're going to go to these coordinates. And I'll show you the effect of the structure void blocks. So here at the bottom of the ocean, we're going to load our underwater house. So now if we load this house, you'll see this is our structure from before. This is the same house we had on the surface, except if we head inside, you will see that none of the blocks in here have been saved. So as you can see, instead of being filled with air, it's filled with water and sand, because these sand blocks were there before. And all the seagrass is still here. There's drought that got caught in here. And if we hadn't used structure void, you can see they've all disappeared now. if we hadn't have used structure void, then this would have been filled with air, and it wouldn't be quite the same effect. So thank you for watching this tutorial video. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. Remember that this is a Bedrock guide. Structure blocks do work differently on Java Edition. Leave a like if you did enjoy it. Subscribe if you haven't already and you'd like to see more content like this. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.